Then, you know, the channel was called Herpers TV when I first started it. And immediately I got the herpes TV.
Yeah, I think we've all dealt with it.
Right. And I ignored it for 2 years, and then I just couldn't do it anymore. So.
Hey guys, welcome back to Reach Out Reptiles. My name is Garrett Hartle, and this week we have Dave Kaufman.
How's it going, guys?
So I hope you're ready for a reptile adventure.
I'm Dave Kaufman, and I tour the world to see how reptiles are living in the wild. And while I'm at it, checking out some of the most amazing facilities and reptile expos as well. It's all about learning, appreciation, and conservation. So come with me and join my reptile adventures.
Alright, so I don't know about you guys, but I have actually been following Dave for a really long time. I know that we're on a YouTube platform right now, but you've been doing film a lot longer than YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I started in independent film, and 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah,
Crazy.
I did my first film in like 99.
Well, so the ones that I really was a big fan of was the Herpers ones. You remember those? So you interviewed all the different guys in the industry.
Right, and that's what launched my channel, was that I had, you know, I did Herpers, and then I did Herpers 2, and then I did Herpers 3, and then I was going to do Herpers 4.
Okay.
Herpers 4 was going to be called The Global Phenomenon. Well, nobody was buying DVDs at that point, and I really couldn't go out and raise more money to, you know, knowing that I didn't have a good chance of recouping that money from my investors. And so I had all this footage, and I was just like, I just throw it up on YouTube. And that's how my channel started. I mean, it just started with me driving down the road going, what am I going to do with all this footage? And I was like,
that's pretty cool.
Throw it up on YouTube. And then, you know, I mean, it kind of got stale because, you know, I kept doing the same documentary style interviews and whatever, and I wanted to do more, you know, interactive, more vlogging, and so that's when I changed it to Dave Kaufman's Reptile Adventures.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Yeah, sweet and easy. Yeah, so, you know, one of the cool things about Dave is that on his channel, he does a lot of, I think we do a lot of similar things with our channels. You obviously have way more bent on traveling and kind of covering a whole diverse thing of species, but as far as having other people on the channels, you know, so much about the reptile industry is really what you don't see. Like, let's say, for example, you buy a reptile magazine or you go to a reptile show, you know, or you're reading about reptiles online. It's all about the reptiles.
Right.
Very seldom do I think, sometimes we don't stop back and think, why are leopard geckos in the industry? Why that species?
Right.
And behind the why, there's always a who.
Right. And, you know, going back to that, you know, that's why I travel the world and see how, you know, these animals are living in the wild, you know, showing what they're living on. Like, you know, I just did the bearded dragon in the wild video when I was in Australia.
Yeah.
And yes, in fact, they are living on sand.
Huh.
And of course, then the comments, you know, berate me for, you know, even suggesting that bearded dragons, you know, should be living on sand, but
there they are.
But there they are. And I do these things because that information is sometimes lost.
Yeah, you got to think outside the care sheet a little bit.
That's absolutely correct, and a lot of people read those care sheets and think this is how to do it. Any new information that comes in is false information.
Yeah.
And then they challenge that new information that comes in. It's not the right way to do things, and so that's why I wanted to go out not only to see how these animals are living in the wild, but for my own knowledge.
Right.
You know, I want to see firsthand. You know, this is how boa constrictors are living in, you know, the Ecuadorian Amazon, and they're living in the exact same habitat, the exact same temperature and humidity as rainbow boas. And I said in my video, you know, why aren't we keeping true red-tailed boas exactly like we're keeping our rainbow boas?
Yeah.
They live exactly in the same habitat.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
Anyway, yeah. So, you know, going back to what you said, is somebody went out there and found, you know, the first one and said, okay, I'm bringing these into the industry.
Yeah, I like this thing, and you know what I mean? How do I keep it alive?
Exactly.
There is no information.
Exactly.
I gotta trial and error this for 10, 20 years.
Right.
And they have a tremendous amount of knowledge and stories and things that if you're buying your animal from that person, you get to become a part of that.
Right.
You know, you get to share in their life experience.
That's exactly right.
So the cool thing about Dave is while you do breed reptiles,
I do.
I would at least consider you more of a filmmaker.
Yeah. I'm a filmmaker first, reptile breeder second, for sure.
Honestly, I would say filmmaker first, herper second, meaning going out and finding stuff in the wild.
Right.
Breeder third, the way I see it.
So it's like asking which one of your kids is the favorite, you know? I mean, I love filmmaking, I love herping, and I love breeding reptiles, but, you know, I just consider myself very lucky that what I do for a living is to combine all three of them, and I want to keep doing this for as long as I can. But
yeah, it's crazy. It's super unique. So that's really fun. And the best part about, you know, Dave, as he's bringing that stuff is, you know, instead of filming something in a cage like what a lot of us, that's all we have to offer. I mean, because, you know, your episode on crested geckos is filmed in New Caledonia,
right.
which is insane.
Right.
You know what I mean? And actually probably very different sometimes after a certain amount of domestication has happened to the animal.
When I go out into the wild and see these animals, they look very different than they do in captivity. You know, bearded dragons, they have much longer noses than they do with the domestic ones that we have, and, you know, crested geckos are the same. And so they do look different. You know,
that brings up an interesting point. I think a lot of times, you know, I hear this term all the time in the captive United States reptile industry, conservation through captive reproduction, and I mean, it's a nice thought, but our gene pools, I mean, nobody's taking bearded dragons from a captive bred collection. Even a lot of the rarer species, I don't know that you have any chance of ever actually benefiting the animals in the wild doing that kind of stuff.
Captive breeding cuts down on the demand for people to go into the wild and remove these animals from the wild. But in the same respect, captive breeding also has a kind of a barrier that we hit as far as genetic diversity is, because of the gene pool that we're working with is pretty, you know, it's much smaller than it is in the wild. So that is why a lot of the wild, you know, cresties and beardies that I'm finding in the wild look different than they do in captivity.
You're going to have totally different selectiveness going on too.
Right.
Because in the wild, it's literally like anything weak dies.
Right, and then if we do have a runt in a litter, we work very hard with that runt or
keep
with
it
that
alive.
one. Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And they make great pets.
Right,
so
absolutely.
It makes sense.
So, you know, herpetoculture is really in its infancy right now, you know, and we have come really far. But, you know, herpetoculture really started in 1961 when Dr. Betchel bred the first albino corn snake and discovered that, you know, albinism was a recessive gene, and it took 2 generations to produce albinos from that original albino caught corn snake. But that's 1961, so that's what, 59 years. And the point is that within that 59 years, look at how far we've come. All right, now flash forward 59 years from now. What's herpetoculture going to look like then?
Yeah, there's no,
you know,
with how big it is and the diverse choice of species.
Right. So as far as going into the wild and, you know, bringing new stock into herpetoculture and how kind of unnecessary that is, just 59 years after the start of herpetoculture.
Right.
You know, again, think about how that's going to be in 59 years.
Yeah.
In 59 years, unfortunately, half the animals that we work with now, they could be extinct in the wild, and therefore the point is that are we creating a living ark? You know, are they going to be gone from the wild in 59 years?
Yeah, I think it's something that we need to be intentional about.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean,
something to think about, definitely.
If it ever did become a living ark, it would be because we literally depleted everything from the wild and moved it over here. So there it is. We have created the problem that we say we're solving.
That is an argument as well. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you know, holding you off a cliff and saying, "Well, saved your life." Something to think about anyway.
Right.
You ready for a lightning round?
Let's do a lightning round.
Okay, guys, let's get to know Dave a little bit better. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Okay, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
What's the last book you read?
My own.
Which one is that?
Elysium Coast. It's coming out this fall.
Okay, what is your favorite genetic mutation of all time?
Pied-bell python.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
I think when people spell my name with an E.
What's your dream job?
I'm living it now.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you guys have to go check out his channel if you want to see the rest of that answer. How about a celebrity crush?
Katy Perry before she chopped her hair off and dyed it blonde. Natalie Portman. And then Gwyneth Paltrow. And then...
These are all very different, like different looking, different personality, different looking, different personality.
Yeah,
everything
they kind of are.
people.
They kind of are. They kind of are.
Maybe a non-reptile hobby that you have.
It would be filmmaking.
How about a surprising skill that our viewers might not know that you have?
All right, there we go. There it is. That's the skill.
What do you call that?
I have no idea, and I have no idea how I ever learned to do it.
What would be your best advice for somebody that wants to have a YouTube channel?
Learn how to market yourself before you do your channel.
Your favorite music album?
Nobody's going to expect me to say this, but the Doors Soft Parade.
What's your favorite all-time vehicle?
Jeep. And you know why it's my favorite vehicle?
No, I don't.
Because I'm not a car guy.
Okay.
And I just am a Jeep guy.
What is the most unique place you've ever been to?
It would have to be New Caledonia. And in that, every island that we visited in the archipelago of New Caledonia was different from the other islands.
What is your biggest fear?
Unpredictable people. Yeah.
What was the most life-altering event you've ever experienced?
Go check out my video called Why I Say Rattle On or something like that, or the story behind Rattle On. I can't remember exactly what I named it, but it was like a couple of videos back, and I explain that very question in that video.
If I handed you $100,000 right now, here you go, tax-free, what would you do with the money?
I've always had in mind a zoo, but a very unique zoo, unlike any other reptile zoo that anybody has ever done.
What is your biggest unachieved life goal?
Having kids. You know, I mean, I've never been married. I've never had kids. That would be one of them.
What would you say is your ultimate goal with reptiles?
Knowledge. We are learning so many things about reptiles with every paper that's written, with so many people out there, with so many very talented, biologists that are out there studying. Just when we think that we know what we're dealing with and what we're talking about and widen our knowledge base about reptiles, well, then you realize we don't know anything, and there's still so much more to learn about it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you sharing.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me over, and thanks for filming for my channel. Thanks for the reticulated pythons that you're about to give me.
Well, thank you guys very much for stopping by and saying hey, and until the next time, love yourselves, love the planet, and
rattle on. I got it.